Good morning. I'm Ruben Martinez, and welcome to this session on small farm risk and management approaches. I'm with the Julian Samora Research Institute, and with me today are Dr. Marcelo Siles and Filiberto Gomez. This session focuses on promoting awareness of risk management on small farms. It's a USDA funded project with our partners, MIFFS, who is hosting this conference today. Risk management is important for the sustainability of small farms, for all farms actually. And it is important that we pay attention to the mitigation approaches that have been developed in relation to production, in relation to finances, and in relation to human risks. It is very critical that we deepen our understanding of risk management. We know that it will require some behavioral changes on our part, and we understand that we need to develop new relationships, particularly with insurance agents, with educators, and also with technical service providers. So at this point, I will simply turn it over to Marcelo Siles and Filiberto Gomez. Their bios are in the online, so you can, they're connected to this session. So if you want to learn a little bit more about them, you can take a look there. So with that, welcome. We appreciate you joining this session. And Marcelo, take it away.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your interest in this session. Can I have, yeah, it's okay. Okay. Our session is about educating underserved and socially disadvantaged farmers on risk management and mitigation. This was a project funded by the North Central Extension Risk Management Education Center from the University of Nebraska and the USDA. The project duration goes from April 1st, 2021 to September 30, 2022. As Ruben said, this is a joint project between the Julian Samora Research Institute and the Michigan Food and Farming Systems. On behalf of JSRI are participating Dr. Ruben Martinez, who is the PI. I'm working as a co-PI, and Dr. Lyndon Robinson as a consultant to the project. He's a well-known risk specialist at the Department of Agriculture Economics. On behalf of Michigan Food and Farming Systems, team members were Jennifer Silberry and Filiberto Gomez. The main purpose of this project is to promote awareness of risk mitigation approaches among small and disadvantaged farmers, and to promote awareness of crop insurance policies. Those are the two main goals of the project. During this presentation, we're going to provide a summary of the 5 focus groups that we conducted in the last 3 months. In the next slide, we will show you who participate in these focus groups and summarize constraints facing small and disadvantaged farmers regarding risk mitigation issues. As I told you, we conducted 5 focus groups. The first with Latino farmers with small farms, social disadvantaged farmers, government agency representatives, private insurance providers, and farmers organizations. Through this focus group, we identified what were the risk events faced by small disadvantaged farmers. Most small disadvantaged farmers are concerned about the current climate change. They are facing several issues regarding climate change, like changes in the cropping season, amount of rain if there's high or lower, change in temperatures, etc., etc. So that's impacting them directly. They're really concerned about this issue. The second point regarding risk mitigation or risky approaches is that most small farmers cultivate only a single crop or 2 or 3 crops that are closely related. So if one of these crops or the 3 crops fail, there's a huge impact on the farming operation from these small farmers. They also face catastrophic events, most of them related to the climate change, pests, floods, droughts, tornadoes, weather-related incidents, fire on barns, vandalism, tree falls on cars or machinery, etc. And then they also cite that the house and wild animals constitute another risky event for their operations. What are the other events or constraints that they face? In the last 2 or 3 years, most of small farmers have experienced important shortages of farm workers. This is due to the new immigration regulations and the policies that the former government had against migrant workers and H-2A farm workers. So those regulations impact directly in the number of farm workers willing to come to Michigan to work, especially in small farms. Now, related to this is the high cost that there is to bring farm workers from Mexico or other countries due to the regulations of H-2A program. Although in the last year, the costs, as Filiberto can tell you, has declined considerably. No, Filiberto?
Yeah, this is a big concern for the farmers because the small farmers have a really big problem because they can spend a lot of money for bring the workers from other country, especially with the H-2A program, because it's too expensive still now for them. The big farmers can do that, but not the small farmers. It's not comfortable for them.
Okay. How high was the cost of bringing H-2A farm worker 3 years ago, and how high is it today?
3-4 years ago was some more than $4,800. Before that, 4 years is more than $8,000 for one farmer. This is too very high. Now it's a little bit better. It's less than $2,500 because all chains are improving this situation a little bit, but it's too slow because the production season is coming every year. And decisions about this programs, this kind of programs, is too slow for to benefit the farmers.
Okay, great. Thank you, Filiberto.
You're welcome.
Another issue is the lack of appropriate technology and tools. Here's a very interesting dichotomy. Most of small farmers use simple tools for their operations and some small equipment. Many reasons: the size of their farms, lack of enough funds to buy new equipment, etc., etc. But there are some small farmers that bought a $40,000 tractor or $50,000 tractor, which impacts the cash flow, the monthly cash flow that they have. And they use that tractor for, let's say, for a month in a year. So there's not a well-designed program to develop a very well-known plan to buy appropriate technology for their farms that can do the same work that a big tractor does. Lack of well-developed marketing plan. This is a very spread problem that constrains tremendously, and it becomes very risky for their farm operations. What most small farmers do is they buy the farm, they plant the crop that they intend to produce, harvest the crop, and then they start planning or thinking about how they're going to market those products. The correct way is develop a complete marketing plan before any seed is planted in the farm. So if a farmer has a well-developed marketing plan, so he plants the seeds, produce what he's supposed to produce, and once that is ready for harvesting, knows exactly where, when, and for how much is going to market those products. So that's very important. Latino farmers concerned about losing money when dealing with insurance companies. Most of Latino farmers that we interview, and Filiberto can tell you more details about this, if they have an insurance policy, they usually have a bad experience dealing with insurance companies. Most of them told us that in the best case scenarios, after a catastrophic event or after something happened in their farms, the insurance company will never pay them back the complete cost that they lost. They pay back certain percentage of their loss. Is that correct, Filiberto?
Yes, yes, that's totally correct. This is a serious issue because the farmers don't understand much what is the rules about to obtain information or insurance for their crops, mainly because they don't get easy information in appropriate language, or there is not much information around them or in the areas about insurance for the crops or for the production. The main things the insurance work is in the buildings, is in the some equipment or vehicles or cars, but not specific for the crops or phenomena important in the crop process, no? Or the crop cycle. This is the main thing.
Okay, thank you. Another issue is the lack of a retirement plan. We were talking with some providers, insurance providers, and they told us that most farmers, when they are close to retire, a year from retirement, a couple of years of retirement, just start thinking about how they're going to deal with their retirement. They never save money through the years, and so they're in a crisis mode that what to do a year before retirement. And there's no planning around there. Another issue related to that is lack of well-developed succession plan or intergenerational farms. So when let's say the owner or the father close to retire or retire, who is going to take care of the farm? If there are 2 or 3 kids, how they're all going to operate the farm? Is one going to operate, the other 2 or 3 going to be out of the farm? Or that's a big problem. So farmers need to have a well-developed succession plan to trespass the farm operation from one generation to the next. If there's not that plan, the risk of continue farming is extremely high, and in some cases, the farm needs to be sold in order to sold and distribute the remaining funds among the 3 or 4 kids that stay. So it's very, very risky not to have this succession plan. Another risk event is the lack of access to credit. In the last 2 or 3 years, we observed that most of farmers that do not have access to credit is due mainly because they don't have a well-kept documentation to apply for these credits. They don't keep their records. They don't. They have very loose record keeping process, etc. So it's very difficult to access to credit now. Since their operations are too small, large banks are not interested to operate with small customers. That's in general. So farmers need to look to alternatives like credit unions or FSA or agencies that can provide the credit. But again, in order to get access to credit, they need to have a well maintained record keeping. Continue. Small farmers cannot afford to buy crop insurance. The cost is seems too high. That's what insurance companies told us. When small farmer has 50, 70, 80 acres in production, the cost of crop insurance is extremely high. Crop insurance is profitable or positive when you're dealing over 200 or 300 acres. But with small farmers, this cost is extremely high. Another issue related to that is that small farmers are mainly producing vegetables, are naturalists, are concerned about the environment and produce locally. So those are another constraints to get access to crop insurance. Again, small farmers have loose operations. They do not have a handbook for safety protocols. Yeah, well, small farmers do not have a record keeping process in place. So if they don't have a record keeping for their daily operation costs, it's very difficult that we can ask them to have a handbook for safety protocols. So we need to emphasize with small farmers to develop these safety protocols in order to reduce any or to deal with any catastrophic event. Now, some small farmers are trying to buy more land or lease more land, but once that they decide to do that, they face with money and labor constraints. They need more money to buy the land, and once that they buy the land, they require more labor to work in that land. So as we discussed before, the constraint for farm workers is becoming critical these days. So if someone is trying to expand its operations, has to take into account very carefully how many more farm workers he's going to need for the extended operation. Well, as a result of a lack of the retirement plan, the succession plan, the intergenerational farming way is decreasing. So less and less farmers are passing their operations to their kids. Most of their kids are not interested in farming anymore, and or there are problems within the family to decide who's going to take care of the farm. Well, what are the requested risk mitigation actions that small farmers pointed at the focus groups? First, develop and provide risky mitigation programs at no cost. So we think that this project is the starting point that could be expanded on a yearly basis to provide risk mitigation programs to small farmers at no cost, both in English and Spanish. Another issue that they are interested to learn more is more information about climate change. If climate change is if they are highly concerned about climate change, they are looking for information on how to deal with this, with the outcomes of the climate change. So that's again a long process, but it needs to be done. Integrated pest management as a way to reduce risk. Well, at least MSU has a very well developed IPM program, but this IPM program needs to extend to be extended to small farmers. Small farmers usually don't have enough or easy access to this program, so they need to extend and to focus more on small farmers. Another request is how to relate food safety to risk mitigation issues. Filiberto is an expert on food safety, so he can explain us how these two issues are related.
Yes, a lot of the farmers are trying to do something about food safety, but they understand as low the rules or regulations about food safety. Sometimes they are very small producers. They think that sometimes they don't need it, but when they are growing in with irrigation systems, example, they need to know what is the rules to using the water in the crop development on the water or agricultural water or in the packaged water too. This is really concerns for some farmers to understand that. And a lot of them are doing some courses about the food safety in Spanish, because we are promoting through MIFFS and other program. We are doing this kind of courses to bring this information in Spanish to make easier that they understand what is important to know about food safety, because they can get better relation with the customers. They can sell easier the products. They can comply for the rules about that, you know. But we need to work a lot about this culture, about food safety culture, improving every time, and giving the opportunity to them to increase the capacity of production with these rules.
Thank you, Filiberto. And since you are directly working with farmers, could you please elaborate a little bit more about the IPM programs?
Can you repeat, please?
Since you're working directly with farmers, can you elaborate a little bit more about the IPM programs?
Oh yeah, we are every year we do some trainings about pest management, but the more people is focus and make this kind of trainings to get the certification or the license, pesticide license to buy the product, to buy pesticide or insecticides, but not really in the not really focus on the management of the pesticide to control the pests, in particular in crops, because in fruits like blueberry, because a lot of farmers are growing blueberries, they have a lot of other trainings about pest management in the plants, in the fruits, and the all season. But this is a good point in the fruits, but in other crops it's a little bit limited this kind of trainings about food safety, pesticide, IPM, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Filiberto. Other risk mitigation actions requested by farmers are access to new and appropriate technology. This is a very important issue since, as I told you before, the dichotomy between small farmers and big equipment. Information about how to operate greenhouses. In the last few years, we observed that many farmers at all sizes are adopting the production under greenhouses or high tunnels as a way to have a more controlled environment for their products related to the climate change, in part related to climate change. With this type of production methods, there's a possibility to increase considerably the amount of products that could be produced and the type of products that can be produced and the number of products that are feasible to produce under these greenhouses. If they want more information how to operate, because they want to purchase one of these facilities, but to purchase a greenhouse and new and appropriate technology, they will need extra funds, and extra funds can be obtained through credit. Now, a study that we did shows that small farmers and small businesses, the first source of credit are not banks, are the providers. So the people that sell greenhouses are the ones that are providing credits to small farmers so they can access to have a greenhouse, the same with appropriate technology. Another way that they are interested to reduce the risk is through crop diversification. As I told you before, if most of these farmers are producing 1, 2, or 3 crops related among them, crop diversification will help them to further reduce the risk of their farm operations. If one of the crops fails, they still will have 1 or 2 crops that can balance the losses that the crop that failed caused through the farming operation. So that's the way. It's another way to reduce risks. Another way that they're interested is to know about producers association for sharing risk outcomes. As I told you, access to insurance policies for crop insurance is very high for small farmers. So a possible way that they can deal with the high cost of crop insurance would be to form a kind of producers association where each producer pays a small amount of money per month. They build a fund through the months and years. If there's some catastrophic events, they have access to that fund to reduce the risky outcomes of the catastrophic event. Some countries, this is a very popular way to reduce risky outcomes in farming operations. They request also affordable insurance policies. Well, insurance policies could cost a lot of money. Given the size of their operations, they cannot afford to buy some insurance policies. They buy the basics, and the basics of insurance policies have their small letters and they don't pay what they're supposed to pay, etc., etc. So they need more information about how to obtain more affordable insurance policies. Another way, they are highly interested how to access to credits. The first step is to keep a well-developed record-keeping process. If they don't have that, and they, through the record keeping, they cannot develop basic financial instruments like balance sheet, income statement, cash flows, etc. It's going to be very difficult for them to access to credit. But another way that they can already start doing is to start developing any type of relationships with bank officials. How can they do that? Open a small savings account or checking account, start making small operations, know people at the bank, and then with the record keeping, that could facilitate their access to credit. Now, again, small farmers will be more, will have more efficient relationship with small banks. The large banks, due to their operations, are not interested to loan a small amount of credits because their administrative cost is extremely high. They say, well, I prefer to do to issue a $50 or $100 million loan rather than $10,000 loans. And that makes a lot of sense. They also know how to develop a well-crafted succession plan to avoid future problems. I already told you why they are so, they need to develop this succession plan. Many examples shows us that many farmers without a succession plans, one that the owner or top family member dies or quits farming. In many cases, the farm needs to be sold in order to avoid problems or because anyone is interested to continue operating this farm. Again, as Filiberto was telling you, they need to develop or to know how to design a labor requirement plan. Says, okay, I'm going to increase my production by 10 acres. I need 10 more farm workers this time, etc. Where I can get it, how much it's going to cost me about this, etc., etc. So that's a very, very important problem. Don't wait until the crop is ready to harvest, because at that time, either you will find farm labor at very high cost or not find at all.
Yeah.
What do private insurance companies say about participating in risk mitigation programs with small farmers? Most private insurance providers do not provide or do not sell crop insurance. Only few are approved by the government, USDA in this case, or FSA, USDA. Only few private insurance. Most of them do not offer crop insurance. And the few that they offer, as I told you, they told us it's extremely, the cost to buy one of these insurance by small farmers is extremely cost, and practically they cannot afford this type of insurance. This private insurance, if they cannot provide the crop insurance, the private insurance provide other type of insurance, like liability insurance for property. Something happened to the property, if there's a fire or a drought or something, or breaks of some of the systems, they can provide liability insurance. If something happened with the machinery, they can provide insurance for that. It's like the type of insurance that we buy for our cars, something like that. Farming equipment. Any equipment related to farming operations can be covered by private insurance. Auto and other transportation equipment also could be covered by private insurance. Private insurance also could provide workers' compensation. I don't know how feasible is for small farmers with few workers 10, 20 to buy a workers' compensation program. That will be a very interesting study to do it. Another information that they provide us is that insurance policies cover livestock as property, but not crops. So if you have horses or llamas or cows, they could be covered by insurance policies at difference than crops. Policies could be for processing. It covers from farm to fork. Well, if you buy an insurance, specialized insurance, it can provide you coverage for all the liabilities in your farm, etc., and also could cover the same, could offer the same coverage for all the processing that you could have in your farm, like processing of salsa and other products. Well, farm leases are covered through the same insurances. So if you have insurance for your farm liabilities, you can extend that insurance to farm leases. Okay. Another type of insurance that the private insurance can provide you is life insurance. Life insurance is especially good for transference of the property to the next generation. You have some type of coverage about that. If something happens with the owner, sudden death could be covered through the life insurance. What are the constraints faced by private insurance companies for their farming operation with farmers? The first one is how to get a good reputation with farmers. Filiberto told you the reputation of private insurance companies with small farmers is not the best one. So they are concerned how to get a good reputation with these small farmers. Now, they realize that the best way to approach or contact small farmers is through who knows who. So a snowball effect, no? You have one customer and say, well, okay, can you refer me to one or two of your colleagues or people that are working with you in the farming system? Small farmers are usually those with less than 10,000 acres or a few hundred acres. They are not suitable for insurance companies. So, in simple words, insurance companies that says we're not interested to deal with small farmers, in simple words. Some insurance private insurance companies told us that they have very limited outreach to Latino, women, African Americans, and veteran farmers. So it says, well, related to the previous one, if they are not interested to work with small farmers, they practically have non-outreach efforts to reach Latino, women, African Americans, and veteran farmers. Another problem that they are dealing is that several family members are involved in the decision process. This is especially among Latino farmers, where many of them family members are involved and say, okay, are we going to buy this insurance or not? Are we going to produce this or how? Any type of the decision within the farm is a discussion, a family discussion, what takes a long time and could be very cumbersome. Another issue that currently they're facing are many farmers are moving to hemp, and that's a national problem. They're moving to hemp, and there are constraints and risks, etc., etc. And finally, small farmers need to develop good record-keeping systems. I'm not going to get tired to emphasize two things that small farmers have. Develop a good record-keeping system, and second, before planting a single seed, have a well-developed marketing system, marketing program. Excuse me. That's it. Thank you. That's it, Jennifer.
There's going to be a question and answer session at
2
1,
o'clock.
following the session at 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
So it'll be at the same link. So
Yeah.
we could have everybody there to join us.
Thank you, everyone. Good job. We are now going to go on a short break, and we'll be back at 12:50 for the next presentation.
Don't forget to do your evaluations.
Yes, please do your session evaluation by clicking the gray session evaluation box to the right of the comment box under this video stream. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back shortly.